Everyone's got their own zombie survival plan, whether it involves barricading your home, venturing to the nearest supermarket, or popping down to a certain pub to wait for it all to blow over. We all think we have what it takes to survive. But could we actually do it if we had to face the end of the world alone? That's up for debate. Some zombie movie protagonists don't have the luxury of debate because they have to take on the undead masses single-handedly. Before we get started, a quick disclaimer. It's almost impossible to find a single zombie film where the main character doesn't interact with anybody else. Nobody wants to make that film and nobody wants to see that film. Well, with that in mind, I'm Ellie with What Culture, here with 10 great zombie horror movies with a lone protagonist. Number 10, The Last Man on Earth. Vincent Price is still one of horror's most iconic faces, and that face is basically the only one you'll see if you decide to watch 1964's The Last Man on Earth. As the title implies, Price plays the lone survivor of a zombie outbreak. Well, they're sort of a zombie-vampire mix. They move in a very zombie-ish manner, but they also can't stand garlic or mirrors. Make your mind up, guys, what kind of creatures do you want to be? Dr. Robert Morgan, Price's character, is a loner for most of this film, living in his rundown house and spending his evenings drinking while listening to music. He's basically everyone during their first year of college. Morgan is eventually overcome with loneliness and takes in a woman he rescues called Ruth. Calling her a protagonist is a bit of a stretch, but she adds a new dimension to his character in this wonderful film based on a very important novel from 1954. But if we told you the name of that novel, then we spoil an entry further down this list, so be patient and we'll get there soon. Number 9, The Dead. With a name that makes it almost impossible to search for online, it's a wonder anybody has seen 2010's The Dead at all. Did the team behind this not read up on search engine optimization? If you have seen it, then you'll know that it's about Brian Murphy, a US Air Force lieutenant who finds himself trapped in West Africa during the outbreak of a zombie virus. As the infection takes hold of those around him, Brian desperately tries to survive and make his way to an airport where he hopes to find salvation. Brian is accompanied by a local soldier, Daniel, but it's clear that the lieutenant is the main focus of the story. Daniel is mainly used to fill in gaps in the narrative and add some emotional weight to the piece, but he's more of a sidekick than an actual leading man. Number 8, Exit Humanity. If you're trying to write a piece of zombie fiction and are out of ideas, then just try choosing a random time in history and dropping a few of those biters in there. That's what the team behind Exit Humanity did, and their film came out just fine. Beginning its rollout in 2011, Exit Humanity is a gripping and original tale of Civil War soldier Edward Young, who returns home from battle only to witness his wife and child being killed by a zombie. The guy just can't catch a break, can he? Young is forced to go it alone as he hunts for his missing son in the midst of the outbreak. Along the way, he meets many different people and comes into conflict with a former Confederate general hell-bent on ruling this new wasteland. Again, the hero in this picture is not totally alone, as he teams up with his fellow prisoners at one point, but there's no denying that this is 100% Edward's story. His mission to find his son is the engine that drives the picture along. Yes, other people are in this film, but there's only room for one rootin' hero in this particular zombie western. Number 7, Here Alone. Lucy Walters stars as Anne in this 2017 survival horror flick, a lone woman who must get through each day in a world that has been decimated by zombies. While most protagonists in films like this hold themselves up in a nice abandoned house, Anne is forced to live outdoors as dwellings act as beacons to her flesh-munching foes. No chance of a nice cup of tea at the end of the day then. Anne is alone for most of the film, with her only company being the memories of her now deceased husband and daughter and 2 fellow survivors. She takes a liking to one of them, Chris, after nursing him back to health. However, this draws the ire of Chris's teenage stepdaughter, Olivia. A sort of family drama plays out among the trio as the 2 females grow increasingly suspicious of one another. Chris and Olivia are more like plot devices for Anne than they are characters, causing disruption in her lonely but safe life. The narrative still belongs to Anne, a fact that, funnily enough, would only annoy Olivia even further. Number 6, Cargo. Martin Freeman's character in 2017's Cargo is never truly alone because he has a baby strapped to his back for almost the entire runtime. Playing Andy Rose, a man whose infected wife bit him earlier in the film, Freeman must get his infant daughter Rosie to safety before he turns 2. The baby's name is actually Rosie Rose. As Andy and Rosie make their way across the Australian outback, they encounter an Aboriginal girl named Toomey who is trying to protect her infected father. She believes that there is still a way to cure him, but Andy informs her that this isn't true. God, what a buzzkill. Andy and Toomey's stories mirror each other throughout Cargo, but it's Dr. Watson who's the real star of the show. His dogged determination to save his child before he dies is truly heartbreaking and makes him the perfect sympathetic hero against the toughest of odds. A poignant spin on the traditional zombie formula, Cargo is not an easy watch for anyone who has kids, but it will restore your faith in humanity when you discover the lengths one man will go to in order to ensure his baby's future. Number 5. The Omega Man. The Omega Man is also based on that 1954 novel mentioned earlier on, and if you don't know the name, we're still not giving it away quite yet, so hang on in there. This 1971 film swaps out Vincent Price for Charlton Heston, who in turn swaps intelligent apes for infected humans. They call themselves the Family and hunt Heston's character, a scientist immune to mutation, as they believe him to be responsible for the plague that made them. Big Charlie spends a lot of time on his lonesome, talking to himself and playing chess with a statue of Julius Caesar. He is eventually taken in by a group of survivors who want to use his blood to create a cure for the disease. So yes, while there are other survivors in this film, it's still clear that the scientist is the main attraction. Number 4. The Night Eats the World. With the fast-moving zombies of World War Z, the eerie silence of A Quiet Place, and the Parisian setting of Ratatouille, 2018's The Night Eats the World is quite the combination. This French-language movie is about Sam, a young musician who awakes one day to find that his beloved city has been overrun with smelly, vicious monsters. Sam barricades himself in an apartment building and tries to survive not only against the undead, but also his slowly spiraling mental health. He battles loneliness, depression, and suicidal thoughts while cooped up as he waits for a rescue that may never come. The young man's only companions are a woman named Sarah, who joins him right at the end of the film, and an elderly zombified man that Sam keeps caged up, and he's called Alfred. While the zombies might be the obvious villain of this movie, it's isolation that we should be most afraid of. The Night Eats the World is an allegory for those on the fringes of society and what happens to their psyche when abandonment leads to hopelessness. Number 3. #Alive. Over 5,500 miles away from the action in Paris, a similar situation faces a young man in Seoul in 2020's #Alive. Note to self, do not visit any capital cities. Jun Woo is an avid gamer who finds himself trapped in his apartment when a virus drives the city's residents to commit acts of grisly violence. Bet all those people who said he'd never achieve anything by playing games aren't laughing now. As the disease spreads across the city, it becomes increasingly obvious that the outside is not a nice place to be. Jun Woo survives zombie break-ins, hunger-induced hallucinations, and our old pal loneliness before he is able to form a bond with a survivor in an adjacent building. If this all sounds familiar, that's because the plot of this movie is extremely similar to that of The Night Eats the World. There are only so many directions you can take the person trapped in an apartment during a zombie outbreak story. #Alive's script even got turned into another movie called Alone, for Pete's sake. Number 2. It Stains the Sands Red. Released in 2016, this Canadian-American collaboration follows a couple trying to escape a zombie apocalypse. But hopefully the actor playing Nick wasn't paid by the hour for this one because he dies almost straight away. Brittany Allen's character Molly watches her partner get killed by a single zombie very early on in the film. She then spends the rest of the movie trying to escape this single zombie as it slowly stalks her across the Nevada desert. For a genre that's hard to innovate in, It Stains the Sands Red is a truly original zombie concept. It manages to be scary without an over-reliance on worn-out tropes and proves that size isn't everything when it comes to flesh-eating ghouls. Number 1. I Am Legend. The entire reason that DoesTheDogDie.com exists, I Am Legend is the third and final picture on this list inspired by the 1954 novel with which it shares a name. Will Smith plays Robert Neville, also the name of Charlton Heston's character, an army virologist who has survived an outbreak of mutated measles and is living alone in New York with his dog Sam. He fights each day to secure enough supplies to survive, as well as battling against infected humans known as Dark Seekers. After the loss of his beloved pet, please don't go there, I'll just cry, Neville seeks revenge on the Darkseekers, but encounters 2 human survivors instead. He is able to give them a cure he has been working on, but sacrifices himself while letting them escape. Smith's performance as the stoic yet damaged loner anchors this picture, which also presents a chilling vision of a world destroyed by human meddling. His reaction to Sam's death proves just how valuable she was to him, keeping him sane in the maddening world of the end times. If you take one thing away from this list, it should be that loneliness is the greatest monster of all. Well, that and dogs are the best. And that concludes our list. If you think we missed any, then do let us know in the comments below. And while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe and tap that notification bell. Also, head over to Twitter and follow us there, and I can be found across various social medias just by searching Ellie Littlechild. I've been Ellie with What Culture. I hope you have a magical day, and I'll see you real soon.